What if the only thing stopping you from becoming the confident, powerful version of yourself isn't the world, your past, your fears, or your mistakes, but a secret you've never even noticed? What if the real battle isn't happening around you, but inside you, in the tiny thoughts you repeat, the stories you inherited, the doubts you didn't create but still believe? What if every time you felt insecure, it wasn't because you were weak, but because you were carrying a weight that was never meant to be yours? What if your confidence didn't disappear? It got buried under perfection, comparison, old wounds, and the fear of disappointing people who don't even think about you anymore. What if every belief that holds you back is actually a lie you learned, not a truth you were born with? And what if right now in this moment, you have the power to break it, simply by realizing you've outgrown the story that once controlled you? What if the version of you that you're afraid to become, the bold one, the brave one, the confident one, is already inside you, waiting for you to stop apologizing for your own existence? What if everything you thought you weren't, you actually are, and the world is just waiting for you to finally see it? Stay with me, because once you understand this, your entire life will begin to shift. What if the real reason you've never felt truly confident is because of a silent story running in your mind? A story you didn't even write, yet you keep repeating every single day? Think about it. Every time you doubt yourself, every time you hesitate, every time you feel unworthy, it isn't the world stopping you. It's the narrative you've allowed to become your truth. And the shocking part is, you don't even notice it anymore. It has become the background noise of your life. What if the voice in your head that says, "You're not good enough, you're not ready, you'll probably fail again," isn't reality, but an outdated script you continue to relive? Imagine holding on to a story that was formed years ago, maybe through a harsh comment, a small failure, a moment you were embarrassed, a time someone underestimated you. And now that old wound has grown into a constant whisper that shapes the way you see yourself. What if that inner narrative is so subtle, so familiar, that you've mistaken it for your actual personality? You think, this is just how I am. But it's not. It's how you've been trained to think. And that's the shocking truth no one tells you. Your confidence hasn't been stolen. It has been covered. Covered by words you didn't deserve. Covered by comparisons you shouldn't have made. Covered by memories that should have been lessons, not lifelong punishments. What if every time you look at someone confident, it's not that they're better than you, it's simply that they're telling themselves a different story, a story where mistakes are allowed, growth is expected, and self-worth doesn't depend on perfection? Meanwhile, you keep replaying your fears like a movie stuck on repeat. What if the moment you change that inner narrative, even slightly, everything about your life begins to shift? What if all the potential you feel inside but never express suddenly becomes visible, simply because you finally spoke to yourself with the same belief you give others? What if the biggest barrier to your confidence was never the world outside, but the world you've created inside? And what if right now you realize you have the power to rewrite that story? Not gradually, not someday, but this very moment, just by choosing a different truth about yourself. What if the only thing stopping you from becoming confident is the belief that you must be perfect first? Think about how shocking that is. All this time, you thought you were lacking something. Skills, looks, timing, opportunities. But what if the truth is much simpler and far more surprising? What if you've been waiting to feel ready, waiting to become flawless, waiting for the fear to disappear, not realizing that confidence was never meant to come after perfection. It was meant to come before it. What if the people you admire aren't confident because they're perfect, but because they dare to show up imperfect? You look at someone bold, someone fearless, someone who speaks with certainty, and you think, if I were that polished, that talented, that flawless, I'd be confident too. But what if that entire belief is a lie you've been conditioned to believe? What if their confidence didn't come from perfection, but from embracing the exact flaws you're trying to hide? What if the moments you hold yourself back, the pauses, the hesitations, the overthinking, are not because you're incapable, but because you're terrified of being seen as anything less than ideal? And what if that fear is the biggest trap you've fallen into? The world has made you believe that confidence is the final outcome, the prize at the end of the journey, when in reality, it is the starting point. What if you've been trying to prepare for a test that doesn't exist? No one is out there grading you. No invisible judge is waiting to mark your flaws. Yet you've built this invisible pressure on your shoulders, believing that one mistake will expose everything you're insecure about. What if that pressure is the real reason you feel stuck? What if confidence is simply the courage to be seen, not as perfect, but as real? What if the world isn't looking for your perfection, but your presence? The shocking truth is, every time you wait to be perfect first, you delay the very experiences that would have built your confidence naturally. What if the version of you who tries, who shows up, who risks, who fails, who learns, becomes far more powerful than the version of you who keeps preparing endlessly, silently, afraid of being imperfect? What if confidence was always yours, but you buried it under the illusion that you must earn it by being flawless first? What if the real reason you've never felt confident is because you've been comparing your real life to someone else's edited highlight reel without even realizing it? What if every time you scroll, every time you watch someone winning, smiling, traveling, glowing, achieving, you're actually absorbing a silent message that says you're behind, you're not enough, you're losing? And what if this constant comparison has become so normal that you don't notice how deeply it's reshaping your self-worth? What if the shocking truth is this? You're comparing your scars to someone else's makeup, your behind the scenes to their best one, your struggles to their staged perfection, and each time you do, you shrink a little inside, not because you're less, but because you're measuring yourself with a ruler that was never meant for you. What if the confidence you think you lack isn't actually missing? It's being stolen silently every time you believe someone else has it all figured out. You see someone smiling on a vacation and think they're happier than you. You see someone's success and assume they're smarter. You see someone's relationship and believe yours is failing. But what if the truth is that the things you're comparing yourself to aren't even real? What if those perfect moments are just well-lit seconds from lives that are just as messy, insecure, and complicated as yours? What if the people you envy also envy someone else? What if the person you think is ahead is secretly drowning in pressure? What if the one you believe is confident is terrified of losing everything you admire about them? What if comparison has blinded you to your own growth? While you're busy watching others rise, you forget how far you have come, the battles you survived, the storms you walked through, the strength you built in silence. What if you've been so focused on their chapter 20 that you forgot you're still writing your chapter 5, and that's okay? What if the moment you stop comparing, something incredible happens? What if clarity returns? What if peace returns? What if your confidence finally rises? Not because you became better than others, but because you started seeing your own journey as valuable, meaningful, and worthy. What if everything you envy in others is already growing inside you, but comparison has kept your eyes looking outward instead of inward? What if the real reason you struggle with confidence has nothing to do with who you are today, but everything to do with a past version of you that still lives inside your mind? What if the moments you thought you moved on from, the failures, the rejections, the humiliations, the heartbreaks, never actually left? What if they stayed, quietly shaping the way you see yourself, quietly convincing you to expect the worst, quietly holding you back even when the world around you sees potential? What if the shocking truth is that you're not fighting your present, you're fighting your past, Eve? Right time you want to take a step, something inside freezes. Every time you want to speak up, something whispers, remember what happened last time. Every time you want to try again, a memory pulls you back like a chain. And what if you didn't even realize how heavy those chains have become? What if the pain you thought you buried is the very thing still controlling your choices? One embarrassing moment years ago now stops you from expressing yourself today. One person who didn't believe in you now makes you doubt your abilities in every room you walk into. One failure that broke you now convinces you not to try again. What if all your hesitation, your fear, your silence are just echoes of an older wound that never got healed? What if you've been living your life reacting to ghosts, ghosts of moments that no longer exist, ghosts of people who are no longer in your life, ghosts of mistakes that no one remembers except you? And what if these ghosts have become so familiar that you've mistaken them for your identity? What if the version of you from years ago still has the steering wheel of your life? What if you've allowed old pain to write new chapters? What if your potential has been trapped behind barriers that were never meant to stay this long? What if the only reason you don't feel confident is because you're still defending yourself from a battle that ended long ago? What if the moment you let go of that past, the moment you finally stop letting old wounds define you, something extraordinary happens? What if your confidence rises not from becoming someone new, but from releasing who you no longer are? What if the only thing standing between you and the confidence you dream of is the courage to stop carrying what was never meant to come with you? What if the real reason you've never felt truly confident is because you've spent your whole life seeking approval from people who can't even approve themselves? What if every choice you make, every dream you chase, every fear you feel is secretly controlled by a craving for validation so deep that you don't even notice it anymore? What if the shocking truth is this: the confidence you think you lack isn't missing, it's outsourced? What if every time you dressed a certain way, spoke a certain way, behaved a certain way, you weren't being you were being the version you thought others would clap for? And what if the applause you've been chasing was never real approval, just temporary noise from people who forget you the moment they scroll past? What if you've built your life around the fear of disappointing others? You post something and then delete it because no one liked it fast enough. You hide your real personality because you're scared someone won't get it. You dream of doing something bold, but one negative comment from years ago still decides for you. What if that comment, that tiny voice, has become the judge of your entire worth? What if confidence has never been about being fearless, but about being free? Free from the need to impress, free from the pressure to please, free from the prison of other people's opinions. And what if you've unknowingly locked yourself inside that prison by constantly asking, will they like this? Will they approve? Will they think I'm enough? What if the people whose validation you crave don't even notice your efforts? What if they're too busy battling their own insecurities, comparing themselves to someone else, hiding their own flaws, fearing their own judgments? What if the approval you're chasing comes from people who aren't even confident in themselves? What if your entire identity has been shaped around avoiding rejection instead of embracing authenticity? What if the reason you feel so lost is because you've never given yourself permission to define your own worth? What if the moment you stop seeking validation, something unbelievable happens? What if your voice becomes louder, your presence stronger, your energy irresistible, not because others approve of you, but because you finally approve of yourself? What if the confidence you've been searching for everywhere outside has been waiting inside you, begging for just one thing: your own permission to matter? What if the real reason you've never felt confident has nothing to do with your abilities, your appearance, your past, or your circumstances, but with one thing you never realized you were holding on to: the weight of not forgiving yourself? What if the deepest wound you carry isn't what someone did to you, but what you still punish yourself for? And what if that silent self-punishment has been quietly killing your confidence for years without you noticing? What if every time you hesitate, every time you doubt yourself, every time you feel unworthy, it's not because you're incapable, but because a part of you still believes you don't deserve confidence? What if a past mistake, a bad decision, a moment of weakness, a time you weren't proud of, has become a shadow that follows you everywhere, whispering, remember what you did. You don't deserve better? What if the shocking truth is that self-forgiveness is the one door you never opened, and behind it lies the confidence you've been chasing your whole life? What if you've been trying to grow while holding yourself hostage to a past version of you? A version who didn't know better, who is hurting, who is confused, who is learning? What if the harshest judge in your life has always been you? Not your parents, not your friends, not society, but your own mind replaying the same regret again and again, convincing you that you're defined by it? What if you've confused accountability with self-destruction? What if you keep reliving the same mistake because deep down you think punishing yourself is the only way to fix it? What if the reason you can forgive others easily but struggle to forgive yourself is because somewhere inside, you believe you should have known better? But what if you couldn't have? What if you did the best you could with the knowledge, emotional state, and strength you had at that moment? What if the moment you forgive yourself, the weight on your chest finally lifts? What if your voice becomes stronger because shame is no longer choking it? What if you walk differently because guilt no longer bends your spine? What if your confidence returns not because you became perfect, but because you released the version of you who wasn't? What if the self you keep punishing is the same self who survived, who grew, who kept going? What if confidence doesn't come from becoming someone new, but finally embracing the person you've always been, without chains, without guilt, without the past holding the pen of your present? What if the key you've been searching for was forgiveness, your forgiveness, all along? In the end, confidence was never about becoming someone else. It was about returning to yourself. Every hidden truth we uncovered, your inner narrative, your fear of imperfection, your comparisons, your past pain, your need for validation, and your unhealed self-blame, was never meant to break you. They were mirrors. Mirrors showing you the parts of yourself you've ignored, misunderstood, or judged too harshly. The world didn't take your confidence, life didn't take it, people didn't take it. It was always there, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the stories you've carried for far too long. Confidence isn't a destination. It's a decision to stop fighting your past, stop comparing your journey, stop giving your worth away, and start choosing yourself with courage, compassion, and truth. And the moment you choose that, your confidence doesn't just rise, it returns home. Thank you for staying till the end, for listening with an open mind, and for giving your heart a chance to hear the truth it always needed. I wish you strength on your journey, clarity in your choices, and the courage to walk boldly into the life that's waiting for you. Good luck, not because you need it, but because you deserve every good thing coming your way. And thank you, truly, for being here.